The wind was cold and sharp, cutting through the night like a knife. Snowflakes drifted from the sky, soft but cruel, piling up on the cracked streets of Hellion 6. Elira held her daughter close, wrapping the child in the last piece of cloth she had. The child, Nami, didn't cry anymore. Her small face was pale, and her eyes half closed from hunger and cold. Elira's legs shook with each step, her bare feet bleeding, leaving red marks in the white snow. She had already knocked on 11 doors, each one colder than the last. Some cursed her and called her a thief. Others just slammed the door before she could speak. Her voice was weak now, her body tired, but she had to try again. She had to try for Nami. The 12th building stood tall and dark, its steel walls glowing with heat inside. A rich home, she thought. Maybe this time someone would listen. She walked slowly to the front gate, pressed the button with frozen fingers, and waited. A camera turned toward her, red light blinking. Elira cleared her throat, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, I beg you, my daughter. She's freezing. She needs food. Anything." There was silence for a moment. Then a harsh voice came from the speaker. "Go away, alien scum. You're not welcome here." Before she could speak again, the gate powered up and blasted hot air at her. She stumbled back, shielding Nami with her own body. The gate slammed shut. The red light turned off. Tears formed in her eyes, but they didn't fall. Even her tears were too cold to move now. Elira turned away, walking blindly, not knowing where to go. Her knees gave up, and she fell beside an old, rusted warehouse. She leaned against the metal wall, holding Nami close, trying to give her the little warmth left in her body. Nami's breathing was slow, her chest rising in soft, shallow gasps. Elira whispered softly, "I'm sorry. I tried. I really tried." Snow kept falling, quiet and cruel. Her vision blurred, her head heavy. She felt her body growing numb, her eyes starting to close. This was the end, she thought, and maybe that was mercy. At least Nami wouldn't feel the hunger any more then. She heard it. Footsteps, not loud ones, not marching boots like soldiers, but slow, careful footsteps crunching snow nearby. Elira opened her eyes weakly and saw a figure walking toward her. Tall, wrapped in a long coat, carrying a box in one hand. The person knelt down beside her and spoke in a voice that sounded soft and human. "Don't move, you're hurt." She blinked, unsure if this was real or just a dream. The man put the box down and pulled off his gloves. He touched Nami's forehead gently. "She's burning up," he said. "We need to warm her, fast." Elira tried to speak, but her voice cracked. "No, don't take her. Please." "I'm not taking her," the man said. "I'm helping both of you." He lifted Nami carefully, wrapping her in his coat. Then he reached out a hand to Elira. "Can you walk?" he asked. She stared at his face, human, maybe mid-30s, kind eyes. She didn't understand why he was helping. No one else had, but she nodded slowly and took his hand. He helped her up, holding her steady, then guided her through the side door of the warehouse. It was warmer inside, with old heaters humming softly. The man placed Nami on a thick blanket near one heater and covered her. He handed Elira a cup with warm supril soup, with steam and smell. Her hands shook as she held it. "What's your name?" he asked, kneeling beside her. "Elira," she whispered. "My daughter." "Nami, I'm Reed." The man said. "You're safe now, Elira." She looked at him with eyes full of disbelief. Her lips trembled, not from cold, but from shock. No one had said those words to her before. Not since the war, not since her home planet was burned. She held the cup close and stared at Nami sleeping near the heater. For the first time in weeks, she saw her daughter smile in her sleep. A small smile, but real. Elira closed her eyes, and a single tear slipped down her cheek. Not from fear, not from pain, but from something else. Hope. Reed didn't ask too many questions. He just placed a second blanket over Alira and made sure the heater stayed steady. The warehouse wasn't much a repair station filled with half-broken ship parts and tools, but it was warm, dry, and smelled like oil and safety. Alira watched from the corner as Reed moved with calm and quiet hands. He didn't stare at her like others did. He didn't ask why she was there. He simply brought food, a first-aid box, and something she hadn't felt in a long time: kindness. Nami stirred under the blankets, her small hands curling near her face. Reed kneeled beside her, holding a warm patch close to her chest to help her breathing. "She's very light," he said gently. "She hasn't eaten in days," Alira whispered back, her voice rough and dry. Reed looked up at her and nodded. "We'll fix that," he said. As if it were the most normal thing in the world, he walked to a shelf and opened a box marked crew rations, pulling out soft food packs and vitamin tubes. He returned to Alira and placed them beside her. "Start slow," he said. "Tiny bites, small sips." Alira took the packet with shaking hands. The taste was bland, but it felt like a royal meal in her mouth. Reed didn't sit far, but he gave her space. He leaned back on a toolbox, sipping a can of coffee while watching the heater. Outside, the wind howled and shook the walls. Inside, the silence was heavy but not uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people who had survived something hard. After some time, Alira spoke again. "You're not afraid?" Reed raised his eyebrow. "Of what?" "Of me. Of my daughter. Of what people might say." He gave a small smile and shook his head. "I've seen fear, Alira," he said. "Real fear. On the battlefield, when your squad doesn't return." He took another sip of his coffee, then looked at her directly. "You and your girl. You're not fear, you're just tired." Alira didn't know how to respond. She wasn't used to words like that, not from humans. Not anymore. That night, as Nami slept softly, Alira sat awake. She watched the human man tinker with a broken drone at his workbench. He hummed a tune, quiet and calm, as if she wasn't even there, but not in a rude way, in a way that felt normal, like she belonged in the room. The next morning, Reed handed Alira a folded shirt and pants. "They might be big, but they're clean," he said. She took them with a nod and a whispered thank you. Later, a key handed Nami a small Toya floating light ball that bounced when touched. The child's eyes lit up, and for the first time, she laughed. It was small and soft, but real. Alira's heart felt strange at that sound, like something inside her chest had been asleep and was waking up. Reed smiled too, watching Nami play. "You got a strong one there," he said. "She didn't let go of life, even when it was hardest." "She's my reason," Alira replied, her voice breaking just a little. "My only reason." Reed nodded and tapped the side of a broken cargo panel. "We all need a reason to keep the engine running. Over the next few days, Reed, let them stay." He gave no rules, no demands, just space and warmth. Alira began cleaning parts of the warehouse, organizing tools, fixing what little she could. She didn't want to be a burden, even if he never asked her to do anything. One evening, Reed came in with bruises on his knuckles. Alira saw the red marks and asked quietly, "Are you okay?" "Some people didn't like what I said at the corner store," he replied simply. "Didn't like that I bought food for someone with pointed ears." Alira lowered her head, shame creeping into her bones. "I'm sorry," she said. But Reed waved his hand. "Don't be," he said. I hit back. Alira looked up, shocked. Reed gave her a tired smile. "Not proud of it, but sometimes you gotta remind people what being human means." That night, while Nami slept curled up with her toy light ball, Alira sat near Reed by the fire drum. She watched the flames flicker, then finally asked the question burning in her chest. "Why did you help me?" Reed didn't answer right away. He poked the fire, then spoke softly. Because one time someone helped me. My ship crashed. I was left in the snow with nothing. A stranger found me, warmed me up, fed me, didn't ask who I was. He just said no one should die alone in the cold. Ilara looked at him, her voice almost too quiet to hear. And now you're that stranger. Reed shrugged. Maybe. Maybe I just didn't want to see another mother fall in the snow. The fire popped softly, casting warm shadows on their faces. Ilara didn't cry, but her eyes were full. She looked at Nami, safe and warm, then back at Reed. In her heart, something shifted, something gentle and new. Maybe, just maybe. This was the 13th door she had been searching for all along. The days passed slowly, like melted snow dripping from a broken pipe. Each morning, Ilara woke up expecting the warmth to be gone, the kindness to disappear, but Reed was always there working at his bench, sipping from his dented coffee mug, humming some old earth tune. He never pushed, never questioned her past, never made her feel small. Instead, he made space for her, for Nami, for peace. Ilara cleaned without being told, fixing shelves, sorting wires, patching walls where the cold wind sneaked in. Nami followed her mother everywhere, now stronger, now giggling, her steps quicker. Reed had given her a second Toya small repair drone that floated and blinked. Nami named it Buzz, and Buzz followed her like a loyal friend. Sometimes. Reed stopped working just to watch the girl laugh. He never said it out loud, but that laugh healed something in him too. One morning, Ilara found a bowl of warm porridge already placed on her little corner table. Next to it sat a spoon and a folded napkin, clean and neat. Reed didn't say a word. He was busy adjusting something on a wall panel, but she saw the corners of his mouth twitch. She sat down, ate slowly, and whispered, "Thank you." Even though he didn't turn around, he heard it, and that was enough. Later that day, Reed showed her how to fix a leaking pipe. He handed her the tool and watched patiently, nodding when she got it right. "You're a quick learner," he said. Ilara gave a small smile, something rare on her face. "Living on the run teaches you fast," she replied, for the first time in a long while. She felt useful, not just surviving, but contributing, and that feeling was gold. In the evening, they all sat around the small heat drum. Reed handed Nami a hot drink mixed with honey and gave Ilara a small bag of dried fruits. She stared at it like it was treasure. Nami looked up and said, "Uncle Reed, can I keep Buzz forever?" Reed chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, I was going to fix Buzz and sell him," he teased. Nami's face dropped, and she hugged the drone tightly. "But," Reed smiled, "I think Buzz likes you more than anyone else." Nami beamed, and Ilara felt her heart melt again. This man had no idea how much his little gifts meant. Or maybe he did. That was the strange part that night while Nami slept curled up in her blankets. Ilara sat beside Reed again. She was quiet for a long time, then finally asked, "Why?" Reed turned to her, confused. "Why? What? Why are you helping us?" she asked, voice soft but steady. "Not just with food or blankets. You're letting us stay. Treating us like people." Reed leaned back, letting the heat touch his face. He stared up at the cracked ceiling and said, "Because it's right." Ilara tilted her head, not satisfied. "Most people don't do the right thing," she said. "They do the safe thing, or the selfish thing." Reed nodded. "You're right. Most people close their doors. But I've been on the other side of the door. Get it? And I swore, if I ever got the chance, I'd keep one open." Ilara looked down at her hands, rough and worn. "I knocked on 12 doors before yours," she whispered. "Some didn't even answer. Some cursed me. One sprayed acid mist." Reed clenched his jaw, his fingers curling into fists. "I believe you," he said. No one should be treated like that. Silence fell again, warm and thick like a blanket. Then Reed asked quietly, "Do you have family? A tribe? Anyone out there?" Elira shook her head slowly. "My people scattered after the colony fell. My mate died trying to protect us. It's just me and Nami now." Reed didn't offer pity, just a nod of understanding. "Then this is your home now," he said, without hesitation. "As long as I've got food, heat, and a roof. You two have it too." Elira blinked, unsure if she heard him right. She had been temporary in every place for years, waiting to be pushed out again. But Reed said it like a promise, not a favor. "Thank you," she said again, this time with more weight in her voice, and he just smiled, tapping his mug against hers gently like a toast. "Two new starts," he said. Outside, the wind blew harder. But inside the warehouse, it was calm. Nami's breathing was soft and steady. Buzz floated in a quiet hover, blinking blue and orange. The fire crackled, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Elira let herself close her eyes and resonate in fear. But in trust, and somewhere deep inside her chest, she knew this wasn't just a break in the storm. This was the start of something she never dared to hope for again. A real place to belong. The warehouse had become more than a shelter. It had turned into a rhythm, a quiet song of healing. Every morning, Elira swept the floors, washed the blankets, and organized tools. Nami helped, laughing as she guided her toy drone Buzz between shelves like a tiny flying guardian. Reed kept working as always, fixing damaged ship parts for passing traders, never charging too much, never asking questions. But peace never lasted too long in places like Helion 6. One gray afternoon, the knock on the front door wasn't gentle. It was loud, angry, like someone trying to break the silence inside. Reed wiped his hands on a towel and opened it, only to find two local enforcers standing there. Their uniforms were neat, their expressions cold. One held a tablet. The other had his hand near his stun weapon. Reed called her. The taller one said, "You've been reported." Reed crossed his arms calmly. "Reported for what?" "For harboring undocumented alien citizens," the officer replied, glancing behind Reed. "I assume you know that's against City Ordinance 71C. Reed didn't flinch. "She's not a threat. Neither is the child. They're survivors. That's not the law's concern," the second officer said. The complaint came from several locals, worried about safety. Reed laughed once, dry and sharp. "They're worried a little girl with a toy drone is dangerous." "It's not about the girl," the officer said. "It's about what might follow." Reed stepped outside and closed the door behind him. He didn't want Elira or Nami to hear the rest. "They're not staying on the streets again," he said, voice firm. "I won't let that happen." "You have 3 days," the officer said, handing over a digital warning slip. "Either register them with the Galactic Protection Council, or they're removed." Reed took the slip and watched them walk away. The moment the patrol was gone, he opened the door slowly and saw Elira standing nearby. Holding Nami's hand, she had heard it all. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice shaking. "I didn't mean to bring trouble to you." Reed closed the door behind him, shaking his head. "This isn't your fault, Elira. It's theirs for thinking compassion needs permission." "I should leave," she said, eyes low. "I'll take Nami and disappear before they come again." "No," Reed said instantly. "You're not going anywhere." "But they'll arrest you," she said. "They might shut this place down." Reed stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Do you trust me?" Elira hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Then stay," he said. "We'll file for protection status. The council has new rules for refugees like you. We'll do it right, but what if they deny it?" she asked. "Afraid?" Reed gave a small smile. "Then I'll find another way for the next 2 days." Reed worked late into the night, filling out forms, collecting evidence. even recording video messages about Alira and Nami's story. He used his own name, his own credit code to submit the application. He didn't tell Alira the risk that if the application failed, they might blacklist his business and freeze his accounts. Alira cooked for him during those long nights. She stitched his torn coat and left warm drinks on his workbench. They didn't speak much, but they understood each other in silence. Two people who were tired of running, but not tired of caring, on the third morning as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks. A message arrived. Reed read the holotext carefully, then smiled. He turned to Alira, who stood nearby, holding Nami's hand. Waiting. "You've been accepted," he said, voice full of quiet joy. "You're protected now." Legally, Alira gasped, her knees almost giving way. Nami jumped and hugged Reed around the leg. Alira covered her mouth with both hands, tears spilling freely. "You did this," she whispered. "No," Reed said, kneeling to look at Nami's eyes. "She did." He smiled. "She reminded me what we fight for." That evening, the warehouse felt warmer, brighter, alive. Reed repaired a heater that had been broken for months. Alira planted a small pot of flowers she found near the market. Nami danced between shelves with Buzz, laughing louder than ever, but not everyone celebrated. Outside, whispers grew. Some said Reed was a fool for helping aliens. Some said he was a traitor, a sympathizer. Some said worse. That night, a rock shattered the front window. The message scratched on it read, "Humans first." Reed looked at it calmly, then turned to Alira. "Let them be loud," he said. "We'll be louder with love." Alira nodded, holding Nami tighter. She had chosen to trust the 13th door, and the man behind it had chosen her in return. No threat would break that choice now. The snow had stopped, but the cold inside people's hearts had not. After the protection approval, some neighbors gave quiet nods or said nothing at all, but others whispered louder now, bitter and angry. Reed noticed strange faces walking near the warehouse. Standing too long, eyes full of hate. He didn't say anything to Alira, not wanting her to worry, but deep down he knew something was coming. It started with small things. Graffiti sprayed on the outer wall. Words like alien trash and not welcome. Then came the broken pipes, clearly cut during the night, one morning. All the power cables had been yanked out and thrown into the snow. Reed fixed everything quietly, calmly, without panic. But Alira could see the lines of stress in his face now, deeper each day. "Maybe we should go," she said one night, softly. "This place. It's making them angry." Reed looked up from his workbench, his voice firm. "They were angry before you came. You didn't create hate, Alira. You just made them show it." That night, Alira stayed up longer, unable to sleep. She held Nami close, listening to the sounds of the warehouse, the heater hum, the drip of melting ice, the silence outside. It was too quiet then. She smelled it. Smoke. Alira sat up fast. Sniffing the air again, the smell was strong, now burning. Rubber, plastic, wood. She jumped to her feet and shook Reed awake. "Fire," she whispered. "There's fire." Reed didn't waste a second. He ran toward the back door, opened it, and saw the flames licking the rear wall. Old boxes had been stacked and set alight. Someone had poured fuel all over them. The fire crackled, growing fast, smoke filling the space. "Quickly, get Nami out," Reed yelled, already grabbing a fire hose. Alira scooped Nami in her arms, running to the side exit. The girl coughed but was still awake. Holding Buzz tightly, Reed blasted the flames with the hose. Coughing hard, the smoke stinging his eyes. But someone was out there, hiding in the shadows. He saw a figure, run small, fast, wrapped in a scarf. Reed dropped the hose and chased without thinking. He grabbed the person near the fence and yanked the scarf down, revealing a teenage boy, human, scared but angry. Why? Reed shouted, gripping his arm. She's not even from here. The boy yelled, We don't want their kind. Reed's eyes flared. You set a fire where a child was sleeping. She's not one of us, the boy hissed. She doesn't belong. Reed's hand tightened for a second. Then he let go, pushing the boy away. Go home, he said coldly, and pray you never need mercy from someone different than you. The boy ran, vanishing into the snow, by the time Reed returned. The fire was mostly out, a few crates burned, but the main building had survived. Elira stood outside, holding Nami. Shivering, Reed coughed as he walked over, his shirt black with smoke. Are you hurt? Elira asked quickly. No, he said, breathing hard, just angry. They stood there for a while in silence, watching the smoke fade. Reed finally said, We can't stay quiet anymore. The next day, Reed made a decision. He called a local journalist, a woman named Zune, who had always been fair with stories. He let her film the burned boxes, the broken wall, and even recorded an interview. I helped someone because it was right, Reed said, looking straight into the camera. I was taught that mercy makes us strong, not weak, if helping. A mother and child makes me a traitor. Then maybe we need to redefine loyalty. The video spread fast, within hours. It was everywhere, from local news to planetary feeds. Comments poured in, some full of hate, but many filled with love. Hashtag the 13th door began trending. Donations started arriving. Messages from people who had once needed help too. A mechanic from another planet sent a new power core. A mother on Earth offered books and toys. Even the Protection Council responded, promising better security for approved refugees. The hate hadn't vanished, but it had been drowned by something louder: hope. Inside the warehouse, Reed replaced the burned shelves. Elira painted over the blackened walls. Nami drew hearts and stars with chalk on the floor. They didn't speak about the fire much. They just moved forward, stronger than before, that night. Reed sat beside Elira again. He looked at her, then said softly, I won't let anyone hurt you, not while I'm still breathing. Elira didn't reply with words. She just reached out and held his hand. It was warm, steady, human, and in that moment she knew the truth. He had not just saved her life, he had become a part of it. After the fire, something changed inside. The warehouse, it wasn't fear, and it wasn't sadness. It was something stronger, quiet strength, a silent promise. Reed repaired every burned wall with care, and Elira helped him, sanding, painting, making the place feel like home again. Nami drew stars, flowers, and smiling faces on the walls with colored chalk. Buzz, her little drone, hovered behind her, beeping cheerfully, like nothing bad had ever happened. The video interview with Reed had reached far beyond what any of them expected. People from other colonies began to send messages. Thank you for what you did. I was like her once. My child and I needed help, and someone opened a door. Some messages came with supplies, blankets, warm clothes, food boxes, even a new heater unit with a note for the little girl who reminded us what kindness looks like. But the most important message came 3 days later. It was a sealed envelope, hand-delivered by a Galactic Protection Council officer. Reed opened it slowly, scanning the contents, his eyebrows raised, and then a slow smile spread across his face. What is it? Elira asked, heart pounding. He turned the paper toward her full protection status. He said, for both of you. Elira stared at it, not moving, not breathing. She took the paper in her shaking hands and read it over and over again. Her name, Nami's name, both marked as protected under Human Alien Refugee Code 47B. It meant they couldn't be hunted, deported, or harmed without consequence. It meant they were finally, truly safe. Reed looked at her, voice softer now. You don't have to hide anymore. Elira, you don't have to run. Tears ran down Her cheeks, but this time they were warm. She knelt and hugged Nami close, the paper still in her hand. The little girl didn't fully understand, but she smiled anyway. "Are we staying with Uncle Reed forever now?" Elira looked at Reed, then nodded slowly. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "Forever." That night, the warehouse felt different. It didn't feel like a shelter. It felt like a beginning. Reed cooked a real meal, not ration packs or leftovers. He made stew with real vegetables and toasted bread on the heater grill. He even lit an old lantern and placed it in the center of the table. As they ate, Elira looked at him and said, "You didn't have to do all this." Reed shrugged, sipping his broth. "Maybe not," he said, "but I wanted to." "Why?" she asked, not for the first time, but this time her voice held no fear, only curiosity. Reed leaned back in his chair, his eyes on the flickering light. "I lost someone once," he said slowly. "My sister. During a border raid, she begged for help, and no one opened the door. She died in the snow, with her baby in her arms." Elira didn't speak, her throat tight. Reed looked at her and added, "I couldn't save her. But maybe I saved you." "You did," Elira whispered, her voice full of emotion. "You saved both of us." Later that week, Reed received another message, this time from a government agency. They had seen his story, and they were offering him a contract, a new job teaching empathy and refugee support systems on other colonies. It was good money, good work, but Reed didn't care about the offer. He turned it down, kindly but clearly. "I already have work here," he told the agent. "My hands are full." Instead, Reed used the donations he received to do something else. He expanded the warehouse, adding 2 more rooms and a shared common space. Elira helped with the design. Nami helped paint the walls. Buzz beeped in approval as they worked. 2 other refugee families arrived, shy and quiet at first. But Elira greeted them with a warm smile and said the same words that changed her life. "You're safe here. Come inside." Reed stood in the background, watching Elira take charge. She was different, now stronger, braver, louder. He had helped her stand. But now she was walking on her own that night. While Nami played with the other children, Reed stood with Elira near the door, the same door where she had once collapsed in the snow. She looked at it quietly, then at him. "Do you ever regret opening that door?" she asked. Reed smiled. "Not even for a second." She took a deep breath, then said softly, "If I asked you something big, would you still say yes?" Reed raised his eyebrows. "Curious, depends on what it is," he said, half smiling. Elira looked down. "Nervous? Stay with us," she said. "Not just in the warehouse, not just as a helper. As family." Reed didn't speak right away, but he stepped closer, took her hand gently, and held it. "I already am," he whispered, and in that quiet moment, filled with warmth, safety, and a promise not made with words alone, Elira knew. The 13th door didn't just save her, it gave her everything she never thought she deserved: love. The wind had changed on Helion 6. Not the snow or the cold, but something deeper. The warehouse, once quiet and empty, now buzzed with voices, footsteps, laughter, and life, where silence once slept. Warmth now filled the air. Reed's home had become more than a shelter. It was now a place of healing, of second chances. The metal walls had stories now painted by children, cleaned by tired hands, blessed with whispered thank yous in different languages. Elira walked through it each day like she belonged, because now she truly did. Nami ran through the corridors with her friends, her toy drone Buzz still floating by her side. She had grown stronger, taller, her cheeks full of color again. She no longer hid behind her mother's legs. She smiled first, laughed first, trusted first. The fear in her eyes was gone, replaced by something rare: joy, Elira had become a leader. Not just a mother, she welcomed new refugees as they came, some alone, some with children, some broken and silent. To each of them, she said the same words Reed once gave to her. "You're safe here. Come in." Reed stayed busy with his tools, but his heart was always present. Every time someone needed help, he was there, fixing doors, repairing broken heaters, lifting boxes, and sometimes just listening. He never spoke of himself much, but his actions always told the truth. He cared. News about the warehouse had spread across the system. People called it the 13th door, a symbol of mercy, of hope, of choosing to open instead of close, a symbol that one human heart could change the course of another's life. One evening, Nami sat beside Reed, drawing on a piece of scrap metal with colored chalk. She looked up and said, "Uncle Reed, can I ask something?" "Sure, kiddo," he said, adjusting a power line. "Do you think other people out there, other kids like me, are still knocking on doors?" Reed paused, his hands still. "Yeah," he said softly. "Too many. Will they find someone like you?" She asked, her voice hopeful. Reed turned to her, smiled gently, and said, "I hope so, Nami. I really hope so." That night, after the lights were off and the children were asleep, Elira sat on the rooftop with Reed. They looked at the stars together, the city lights far in the distance. She held a warm cup in her hands, steam rising in the cold air. "You changed everything," she said. "Quietly, you gave us something more than safety." Reed looked at her, his voice steady. "You gave me something too. Before you came, I was just fixing machines. Now I'm part of something. That matters." She smiled, her eyes soft and full of light. "We both opened a door," she said. He nodded, then chuckled. Who would have thought one bowl of soup could start all this? Elira laughed gently. "I would have taken the soup, even if it came with a rusty spoon." "Well," Reed said, leaning back on his arms, "you're stuck with me now." "I know," she replied. "And I'm glad." Weeks passed, and spring finally touched the edge of Helion 6. Not warm, but less cruel, less biting. The snow melted in corners, revealing broken earth and new beginnings. One morning, as Elira swept near the door, she heard a soft knock. She froze, memories rushing back of hunger, fear, rejection. Then she opened the door slowly. Outside stood a girl, no older than 12, covered in dust and old clothes. Behind her was her mother, thin eyes filled with fear and exhaustion. Elira didn't speak at first. The mother opened her mouth, her voice shaking, "Please. We've been to 12 places already." They all said no. Elira stared at them for a long moment, then stepped aside and said the words that changed her own life. "Come in." The woman hesitated, her eyes wide with disbelief. "But we have nothing," she whispered. "You don't need anything," Elira said. "Just walk through the door." The girl stepped inside first, then the mother followed. Reed appeared from the hallway. Nodding once at Elira, she nodded back. No words needed between them anymore. Later that evening, Nami gave the new girl a blanket and half of her chalk. Buzz beeped, as if welcoming the newcomer too. The girl smiled, for the first time in a long time. Outside, the wind blew again, cold, sharp, endless. But inside the warehouse, the 13th door stood wide open, and behind it lived mercy.